All right, let's see if I can still figure out how to do this, huh? Am I rusty? Am I rusty? Watch this. Watch this. I'm not rusty. Not rusty at all. What's up, guys? Hope you had a good spring break. I would say good to see you, but I'm not really seeing you. But I guess you're seeing me. So what's up? Uh, so let's look at the last however long we have to the end of the school year. So we basically have. I know we get out some point in May. I have no idea when. My brain just kind of goes into shutdown mode as far as just putting my head down. I lose track of the days when it comes to the end of the school year because it just seems so hectic. So we basically have a month and a half, let's say, just for funsies, a month and a half till the end of school. Remember, no finals. Okay, so remember your semester grade to pass has to be above a 60 average. So really, all you got to do is be above a 120 when you add the two quarters together to pass. Let's work hard. It's only a month. It's only a month and a half. You guys are remote. It ain't hard. Okay. If you have questions or you're falling behind, make sure to let me know. I can Zoom you. We're getting into factoring, so maybe I will see you guys, some of you, asking questions, ready for Zooms. Remember, I got first hour. I can Zoom anytime you want. After school's tough because I still have football. I have football for 2 more weeks, and my availability opens up a little bit. And that's it. So let's get back to it. Okay, so it's factoring. So factoring is probably the hardest thing to teach in AG3. Why is it the hardest thing to teach in AG3? Well, because if you didn't understand foiling, you're not really going to understand factoring. Okay, let's just review. So this is what we're doing. So before we had FOIL, that's what we just took a test over before break. So we had first, outer, inner, last, right? So first gives me x squared, outer gives me 2x, inner gives me negative 2x, and last gives me negative 4. Okay, what happens in two middle terms? They do what? Drop out. So we have x squared minus 4. All right, so foiling is here to here. Factoring is they give us this, and we need to go back to the binomials. Okay, and that's why it's hard. You have to know both. I mean, it's a huge step in the process. You got to know foiling to understand factoring. If you don't know foiling, I don't know how you would. Okay. Luckily, 11.6 is kind of easy cheat code factoring problems. It's very easy. They're all perfect trinomials or difference of two squares. It's very, very easy as far as factoring goes. Okay, but I'm just going to skip all this. This is all in your slides. The notes might look a little bit different today. I thought I brought a notepad at home, but I mean, my brain can't remember what I ate for breakfast today, so I have no idea where I put it. I'll find it after I record the video, of course. But so it's going to look a little bit different, but it's the same numbers, same terminology on your slides. Okay, I'll post those later today. Or I guess it's Sunday, so I'll post those in the morning. Okay. Okay, so here's how I would do factoring. So all these are perfect square trinomials. Why are they perfect squares? It's because the a term is like the a squared plus bx plus c, right? So that a squared and c squared, so that ac, they're both going to be perfect squares. That's why they call it. So like 81's a perfect square, right? What's the square root of 81? 9. And x squared is a perfect square. What's the square root of x squared? That's going to be x. Okay, so all you have to do, if this is a positive, it's just going to be x plus 9 times x plus 9. That's how we factor it. That's why these are cheat codes. They're super easy. All you do is take the square root of the first term and take the square root of the last term, and then the middle term will tell you the sign. So like on the next one, it's pretty easy. Take the square root of both. So the square root of x squared is going to be x again. The square root of 64y squared, is it hard? No, square root of 64 is 8. Square root of y squared is just y, so it's 8y. And how do we know the sign? It's because this middle term. And there we go, just write it twice. Or you could write it like if I covered up this first term, and or the second term, the last term, it doesn't matter. If I scratch that out and just put a squared, that would work too. Okay. Remember, I'm going from the trinomial to the binomial. Okay. That's the difference between factoring and foiling. Foiling was binomial to trinomial. Now it's trinomial to binomial. I know, fancy words, but let's get ourselves back into habits here. Okay, next one. Are my first and last terms perfect squares? Yeah. Don't let the 4 confuse you. 4 is a perfect square. Okay, so it's going to be 2x is the square root of 4x squared plus, because this middle term tells us that sign. What's the square root of 25? 5. And I'll write it differently just to show you it's the same thing. That's a lazy way to write it. Remember, work smart, not hard. Same thing here. First and last terms, perfect squares. 3x, this negative tells me the sign, minus square root of 49 is 7. Done. 11.6 is pretty easy. It's going to seem easy. There's no thought process here. It's the same thing every time. I'm hesitant to even teach you the thought process yet. Nope, we'll save it. We'll just do these easy cheat codes for 11.6. Okay, so the first term, or the first 4 were perfect square trinomials right here. I don't know why I crossed it out. I don't want to do that. Man, I am rusty. It's okay though. Highlighter. There we go. Perfect square trinomials were the first 4. The last, however many, we're not going to do all these. I might skip around. They're called the difference of squares. Those are your 2 cheat codes. Perfect trinomials and difference of squares. Okay, instead of your first and last terms now being perfect squares, now we only have 2 terms. So this middle term, there's no more. Yellow's a terrible color to write with. There's no more bx that drops out. Okay, so the thought process that we want to use here is, instead of middle term telling me the sign, since I don't have a middle term, I know one has to be positive and one has to be negative. Okay, so I'll kind of teach it backwards because I think my brain thinks of it better like that. So it's the same process here. We still want to take the square root of both of them, and we're going to get the square root of x squared is just x, and the square root of 81 is going to be positive 9. But here's the deal. Okay, since we don't have a middle term, we don't have that bx here. Our next term, instead of making it plus 9, it's got to be what? It's got to be minus 9. Because watch what happens when we FOIL. And I already did one of these. That's the one I already did. Plus 2. What am I doing? Oh. Okay, so let's FOIL this and see what happens. This was our answer that we just got. Now we're just going to work backwards because I want to show you how difference of 2 squares works. Sometimes you guys don't understand. Okay, so first gives me x squared. Last gives me, or outer gives me negative 9x. Inner gives me positive 9x. And final gives me negative 81, the last. Okay, what's going to happen in the middle step here? Drop out. Okay, so that's what you need to understand. This is why foiling is important for the understanding of factoring. Okay, you need to understand that that middle term is dropping out in the FOIL process. And the first one that I showed you guys today, the first one is actually a difference of 2 squares. You guys just didn't know it yet because it's positive and it's negative. Negative, positive, but you guys get it. Okay, so let's keep going. So we have x squared minus 49. First hint, there's no middle term. There's no single x. There's just an x squared and those are constant. Okay, so you know, for right now, we have to go to difference of 2 squares. So I know I'm going to have a plus and a minus. Okay, how do we figure out the first terms? Square root of x squared, that gives me just x. Square root of 49 gives me 7, positive 7, and minus 7, negative 7. Good. This one's a little bit tricky. You got to use that first step, factor out a monomial. Okay, that should sound familiar. Then we get to the difference of two squares. So it's 2 times, we're going to have a plus, we're going to have a minus, square root of x squared is just going to be x, square root of 16 is plus 4 minus 4. That'd be that factor completely. Yeah, you kind of have to think in factoring. That's what makes it kind of hard. Same thing here. You just factor out a 4. Okay, and you would say it. This one is actually a difference of two squares because both of these are perfect squares. Okay, you just might not see it. So square root of 9 is just 3, right? So we have 3x because of x squared plus, what's the square root of 49? 7. Square root of y squared is just y. So plus 7y and 3x minus 7y. Once again, that middle step is going to drop out. That's the whole point. What's the other one? Same thing here. These are both in perfect squares. If they put the constant first, it's not a big deal. Okay, it shouldn't trip you up at all. You can write the constant first. So it's 5. Both of these are perfect squares. Plus 6x and 5 minus 6x. And this one's just like it. So you can use these to practice or use your homework. Doesn't matter to me. This one you would factor out a 4. And that's it. Pretty easy. Once again, these are cheat codes. There's no thought process here. It's a very structured way to learn factoring. Now, am I crazy about these cheat codes? No, I'm not, because it's not really teaching you anything. But I think for our first day back, let's just use these. I won't get crazy with the explanations for you until probably, Tuesday. So tomorrow. This is when it gets nuts. But it's okay. It's okay. I'll teach it to you, just like I've done all year. All right, guys. Have a good one.